Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay, so it's not an image, but it's a logo, which is totally fine. Which is totally fine. Shooting it raw, there are no rules, so I'll just describe what I see. So there are at the top it's a very smart graphic because it's 3 circles. One is at the top is pale blue, one on the left is purple, one on the right is orange. And the negative space between them is like a puzzle piece. And underneath it, it says Autism Tennessee, educate, advocate, celebrate. Oh, with purple, blue, and orange. Clearly somebody's thought a lot about this particular graphic. So walk us through it.
Well, I sent you that because you wanted to know our passions and what's close to our heart. And so for me, that is something. It is working in the, not only working in, but also dealing on a daily basis in the special needs and disability world, which I never saw in my life, right? So I have 2 children on the spectrum. I have 3 total. My youngest son is 8, and he's autism level 1, sensory processing, language processing, and a whole bunch of other things as well. But I am an ambassador advocate for Autism Tennessee, and they're an incredible nonprofit organization here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I live near. And, their focus is the autism community, obviously. I had a meeting yesterday with a senator. I have another one on Thursday for Autism Tennessee. Yeah, they kind of asked last week and said, "You're taking the lead on this." I was like, "What?" So it's a bowling bill, that has come to the forefront that we want to talk about. And that's also been something that's been a passion of mine, because my writing for kids is about empowering kids, however we do, through storytelling and teaching and educating. So, and kids learn through stories. So it's a great way to kind of add those things in when you're writing, to add that, education piece to it for children to help them. But, the bullying situation is pretty bad around the world, and
just 1 second. The what situation? The
bullying. Yeah.
Bullying.
I know.
Sorry.
I know. Somebody said, "Are you talking about bowling?" No, bullying. There we go. I'm sorry.
It's just your Tennessee's coming. Did you grow up in Tennessee, or did you?
No.
Where did you grow up?
I'm from Orlando, Florida.
Ah, okay.
So my first job, I danced at Disney World.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, bullying. Look, we all say words differently. We all say a little different. Sorry. So it's okay. No, don't say sorry. If you say sorry, I have to do 10 push-ups. So it's fine.
Okay, I'm not saying sorry. I will articulate better. So bullying. So bullying and anti-bullying, it's an important subject to pretty much everyone, everywhere I find, and you probably do as well. So, but back to Autism Tennessee, they're an organization. We have lots of them here, which I'm sure you do there, to help with folks in the disability community. And after my son was born in 2013, so probably 14, 15, I went and got certified to be an advocate through the Vanderbilt University. And part of it was to learn how to maneuver through that world. I was already an advocate with my middle daughter. So that started back in 2004 or 5. But along the journey, things change and your advocacy work changes. I mean, we're advocates as parents, right? Because we're a voice for our child when they're little until they can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And so my world took me into having to advocate for my child, get them services, get them interventions, understanding that world, knowing what to do, what are my rights. It's a really complicated world.
You're the second person on the podcast who's basically who found themselves doing advocacy around children with special needs. I think the woman who's on before happens to be based in Canada. She went to high school with me. We went to high school together. And her son, I believe, is autistic. And Yeah, and so it's the same sort of thing where you're living your life and you have children, and suddenly you find yourself just kind of, your reality just all of a sudden evolves or manifests, or
It changes completely.
of course.
Yeah.
Would you say all parents of autistic children are inherently motivated to be ambassadors or to do the kind of thing that you're doing? Or is this something
Mm.
inside you that really ignited?
Yes. Yes to the second part. I don't, all parents are not interested in taking advocacy further than, just trying to get their kid what they need.
Yeah.
Life is hard when you're raising children, period. And when you raise a
Mm-hmm.
child with needs, it can really take people down in life. It is a very stressful thing. And a lot of folks are just out there swimming up the river, just
Mm-hmm.
trying to survive. And they may be faced with very significant situation with their child that just takes every ounce of their being just to get through a day. Because I know
Mm.
folks like that. And I didn't know that my journey as an advocate would even go farther than just a parent who had a child with needs. But
Yeah.
where I found myself after my second child was faced with a very serious situation with my middle daughter. It was extremely traumatic.
Mm.
We went through a legal battle, and
Oh,
it changed my life completely 100%, as a human, as a
wow.
mother, as an
Yeah.
individual in this world, with faith in man, faith in God, faith in the legal system. So
Okay.
I found myself,
That's three crazy pillars you just named.
I know, but that's what
That's
happened.
quite the universe. Wow. Okay.
It rocked my world. But that's not even an appropriate word for it.
Yeah.
But I found myself, I never intended to do any of this in my life, but I found myself on Capitol Hill in Nashville meeting with senators and state representatives saying, okay, this should never happen to a child. This is not
Right.
okay. And we have to change the laws. We have to protect
Right.
kids. It was like that mama bear in me came out. So
No, you didn't just say that.
I did. Is that okay to be cliche like that?
No, because that's exactly what she called herself as
Oh, well, we
well.
are
It's not a
mama bears.
cliche, but that's just right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so, you guys are separated. You two are separated literally by thousands of miles. I will
Yes.
accommodate you, American.
How about two countries? She's in Canada.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
in
no,
the US.
exactly. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
it's interesting in terms of the parallel. Like, okay, you don't know me, and you don't know that part of my day job is to kind of coach and support people, professionals in an area that I call service network leadership. Okay, that's something else. But I have spent a long time, like 15 years, looking at what are some of the elements and what's the essence that inspires people to
Mm.
suddenly step forward. And so, of, let's say, 1,000 parents who have children with special needs, or who are specifically children who are autistic, and who have also faced a traumatic, dramatic crisis, there's one person who steps forward called Mary Elizabeth Jackson. Can you maybe put your finger on, well, what inside you said, I'll step forward beyond the self-interest of your child? Because that's a different thing than
Right.
becoming public and engaged politically.
Well, yeah, and that was never an intention. You know what I mean? I never went into any of this. It was sort of like how we hear stories about someone being in a car accident
Mm,
and someone coming in and pulling them out of a fire or
mm,
lifting a car off of their loved one, right? It is
yeah,
that
yeah.
innate drive that something takes over.
Mm,
I just think,
mm-hmm,
I think it's God. I think it's our higher
mm,
spirit. It just says you go into this zone of complete hyper focus like nothing
mm.
else that you ever experience in life. And you know what you have to do without a shadow of a doubt. You may not know all the details, but you got to get that car off that person. And all
Right,
the
right, right.
details are just things that go with it. your one goal is to get that car off that person, or pull them out of the fire. And so for me, that's what it was like. And it's interesting as I've gone through this journey, because now I've been on this journey since 2004 and a half, I guess.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And how long it's changed. I mean, how different it looks now, because now I am an ambassador advocate for Autism Tennessee, and I'm an advisor for advocacy for it's a global for-profit called Billion-Strong, and they make sure companies all over the world hire people with disabilities. I have an
Okay.
online TV show devoted to this world. I never saw any of this.
Are we going to bring a spotlight onto that online TV channel show?
Uh-huh. Yes,
Okay, great. Okay, sorry.
absolutely. And what I'm saying is just how it's kind of unfolded in
Hmm.
ways I never knew. But it's interesting when I look back in my life, the inspiration for it and the role model for it goes way back to even my grandmother, who my
Right.
mom tells a story, when she was little, like she was probably 6 or 7 years old. And my granny was she was very religious. And she would
Mm.
actually go into wherever they lived at the time in Florida, she would go into like the lower income homes, and she would go into certain homes. She'd take my mom and leave my mom in the car and go in, and she would put coffee on and cook breakfast, and she'd sober up the husbands and whoever was drunk, and she'd drag them to church. Okay,
Okay.
so she's a little
Wow.
5 foot,
Wow.
feisty, and I never got to see that part of her. But when I was growing up, about the age of 7 or 8, my mother went back to work, and she worked
Mm.
for a college in Orlando, and that was in the 70s when the laws were just coming into place for
Right.
IDEA and FAPE and all that stuff, and she was put in the department for handicap, which is interesting. That's the word they still use back in the
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah.
And so she had all these handicapped students, disabilities. They had no services. They had
Right.
nothing for themselves. So my mother, not knowing what she was doing, went in and started writing grants to get money for them for programs. And she created all these
Nice.
programs for handicapped students. And then she trained across the country in the US. And those programs are still used around the world
Oh,
for
wow.
students. But in high school, it was not unusual for her to bring somebody home who needed a meal. So we'd have somebody in
Right.
a wheelchair or disabled or cerebral palsy, or it didn't matter what it was. We always had someone at our house who was having a meal with us or needed a sofa to sleep on. Or
Oh, wow.
so I never realized how much that influenced my
Mm-hmm.
adulthood
Mm-hmm.
until I
Mm-hmm.
got into this, and then looked back and went, wow.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm grateful to my mom.
Okay, I'm going to make one little comment. What I love is that I can see on your face that this is all coming so authentically and is so obviously
Mhm.
inside you and honest and true. And so for the listener, every time they hear you banging on the table and it comes up on the in the audio. No, don't say sorry. I'm gonna start doing push-ups. Please don't.
Okay, I put
But
my
it's just
hands in
like,
my lap.
no, it's good. I love it. It's like bang, bang. I'm like, yes, say it. Should we go to the next photo?
Sure.
Also, I love it. I love this. And I love that I don't know what I'm gonna see. So here we go. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.